heard an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but does eating an apple a day really help or harm diabetes? Stay tuned, because today I am sharing the truth about apples and diabetes. Hey guys, Erin here with Healthy Mom Happy Family, and I'm so excited to have you here today because we are talking about all things apples and diabetes as part of my new series, Can I Eat That with Diabetes? So today I wanted to focus on apples because, believe it or not, this is actually one of the most common questions I get in my inbox. I go to check my emails, at least, like we all do a couple times a day. And one of the questions I see all the time is like, hey, I have type 2 diabetes and I love apples, but I'm afraid to eat them. What should I do? And if you have ever asked this question or you've wondered the same thing, today I am going to be answering all of your questions about apples and blood sugar regulation, because it is a confusing topic, and apples are fruit. Fruit naturally contains sugar, so does that mean it's something that we need to avoid? I'm going to answer that question for you. But before we get started, I just want to remind you too that I would love for you to take a minute to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss new tips, tricks, or recipes. And all of these are really focused on people with type 2 diabetes. So if you're looking for more information or wondering, the most common questions with diabetes and diet, I'm here for you. So make sure you subscribe. All right, so let's talk about, what's the deal with apples and diabetes? So some of the questions I'm sure you're thinking are, can I eat them? And if I can't eat an apple, how much is too much? All right, so let's take a look. Okay, so the first thing I want you to remember about apples and diabetes is that just like any other fruit, apples do contain a source of carbohydrate and the natural sugar fructose. So what that means is that apples are going to have an impact on your blood sugar level. Anything that contains carbohydrate will have an impact on blood sugar level. But it's important to remember that apples aren't just pure sugar, right? No fruit is just pure sugar. They also contain fiber, and fiber is a type of carbohydrate which doesn't get digested in our body. What it does is it helps to slow the digestion of carbohydrate, so it minimizes the impact on blood sugar. Okay, so that's one of the benefits to apples, is that yes, they contain naturally occurring sugar, but they also have this fiber. Now, in addition to the fiber in apples, there are other nutrients in this fruit that can offer a variety of health benefits, specifically health benefits that matter to people with diabetes. So to answer that question, can I eat apples with diabetes? Yes, you absolutely can, but you have to know the best way to do it so that we're minimizing the impact on blood sugar while still getting the health benefits that apples can offer. Okay, so let's talk about how to eat apples with diabetes, because it seems simple enough to just say, yeah, sure, you can eat apples with diabetes, right? But remember, you can eat pretty much anything with diabetes. There's really nothing off limits unless you have an allergy to it. But what matters is how much you eat of that food. And how much that you eat, along with what you're eating with it, will have the most impact on your blood sugar. And so this same principle is true when it comes to apples. Okay, so we have to look at how to eat an apple so that we're going to minimize the impact on your blood sugar level. Now, to do that, the first thing we have to think about is the portion size. So you want to keep in mind that the portion size of apples, it can vary, right? Apples aren't a packaged food. They come in all different shapes and sizes and varieties. So if you think about a medium-sized apple, and a medium-sized apple, you can visualize this about the size of a baseball, okay? So that has about 25 grams of carbohydrate along with about 4.5 grams of fiber, okay? Now, that's for a medium-sized apple. But let's say you go to the store and you find this extra large juicy apple. So you have this huge apple, that could easily be double the amount of carbohydrate. So we can't just say eat one apple. We have to really look at the portion size and the size of the fruit itself when we're sitting down to eat it, so we know how much of an impact it's going to have on our blood sugar level. If you want to eat the huge apple, you might need to slice it into 2 different servings and eat it throughout the day versus eating it all at once. Now, another thing I want you to think about when you're eating an apple is how you're eating it. And one big trick is to eat the apple with the skin on, because the skin of the apple contains a good amount of the fiber as well as the polyphenols that give us the health benefits from apple. So if you peel the apple skin, what's happening is you're removing some of the fiber, you're removing some of the potentially beneficial nutrients, so we're not really getting the same health benefits from eating the apple. And so we take the fiber away, it's going to digest more quickly and have a greater impact on our blood sugar, and we're not going to get the same health benefits. So whenever you can, try to keep the skin on. And remember too, the apple in its whole form is going to be the most beneficial when you have diabetes because it's going to have the most fiber. So if we compared an apple in its whole form to say 100% apple juice or even applesauce, they're going to digest more rapidly and have a bigger impact on your blood sugar than the apple in its whole form. So the whole apple with the skin on is the best way to eat the apple when it comes to diabetes management. Okay, now I also want you to watch what you eat with your apple, okay? It's not just about the apple itself, but what else are we eating? So remember my rule of thumb when it comes to diabetes meal planning. If you balance your meal with protein, fat, and fiber, that is gonna help you to benefit your blood sugar levels. So when you're eating an apple, if you can include an additional source of fiber or lean protein or plant-based fat, this is gonna help to slow down how quickly the sugar in the apple is digested. And then it's gonna help to mute the impact of the apple on your blood sugar. So the way to do this, let's say we have our apple, right? If we eat our apple alone, we might see blood sugar go up kind of fast. If we pair our apple with peanut butter, right? Maybe we put a little peanut butter as a dip and we eat that with our apple. That's a healthy source of fat and protein, and it's gonna slow down how quickly the sugar from the apple is converted into sugar in your bloodstream. So anytime you're eating your apple, try to pair it with a protein, fat, or additional fiber to help improve your blood sugar response. Okay, so I told you how you can eat an apple with diabetes, all right? So you definitely can have it, you can balance it in your meal plan. But I also want you to think about why you should eat apples with diabetes. And there are a few health benefits that apples can offer, especially when we think about people who have diabetes. So one really interesting large study was done on apples, and they found that there was an association between eating apples and a reduced risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So if you're at risk of developing type 2 diabetes, maybe you're in that pre-diabetic category or family history, eating more apples may be beneficial. So what the study found was they found that people who ate apples more frequently were less likely to develop diabetes. And although we don't know 100% why, because it was an association, it is thought that this could be in part due to the powerful antioxidant quercetin, which is found in apples. So apples contain quercetin, and it's a very powerful anti-inflammatory compound. And so when we add more of that into our diet, and they've found that in animal studies as well, having more quercetin in the diet reduces inflammation. When inflammation is cooled off, so are our stress hormones. One of those stress hormones, insulin, right? So if we're always under a state of chronic inflammation, we're always stressed, we have more insulin floating through our body, it's making our cells more insulin resistant. So potentially that could be one of the reasons that eating more apples could help to reduce the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Now there's other benefits as well. There was an animal study, so not a human study, but on animals, so more research has to be done. But they found that the polyphenols in the apple skin actually increased insulin sensitivity in cells. Now, I mentioned that this is animals, right? So we can't say that this definitely applies to humans, but if it does, if we do more research and we see that this apple skin helps increase insulin sensitivity, that's incredible news for people who are trying to manage diabetes or prevent it. Because we know the more our cells are sensitive to insulin, the less insulin resistant we are, the easier it is to keep our blood sugar levels in check. Okay, so we talked about how to eat an apple, we talked about the portion size, we talked about the health benefits. What I didn't talk about yet though is what are the best apples to choose from, right? Because if you ever went to the store to buy apples, and I'm sure we all have, you know, especially during apple season, there are a lot of options to choose from. And the thing is, all types of apples have beneficial nutrients, right? So it's not that one apple is a bad choice. But when we look at all of the apples out there, there's really two that stand out from the pack in regards to potential health benefits. And these two apples have the highest concentration of antioxidants. So that's why they seem to be linked with more health benefits. And that is the Honeycrisp apple and the Red Delicious apples. Now, what I want you to remember though is even though these two forms of apple do seem to have the highest amounts of antioxidants, they also tend to run pretty big in size. So if you do go to the store and pick up a whole bunch of Honeycrisp or Red Delicious apples, I want you to make sure you're keeping in mind that that baseball size, kind of like the size of your fist, is one portion. So if they're much bigger, I would suggest slicing that apple and dividing it out through the day or over multiple days versus eating it all at one time so that you're not consuming too many carbohydrates in one sitting. Okay, so what's the bottom line? Can you eat apples with diabetes? Absolutely. You know, should you eat apples with diabetes? Yes, if you like apples and you enjoy them, I would definitely recommend you make them part of your meal plan because there are potential health benefits. But just remember, how you eat the apple is much more important than even necessarily what apple you choose. Okay, so we want to choose the whole fruit whenever possible and leave the skin on so we get the beneficial nutrients and we get the fiber. Focus on the portion size. Keep your serving size of your apple close to the size of a baseball or your fist. Unless you have a really big fist, then use the baseball. And make sure when you eat your apple, try not to eat it alone. Add an additional source of lean protein or healthy fat or additional fiber, because that's going to slow down how quickly the sugars in the fruit are converted into sugar in your bloodstream. Now, also want you to remember that just like with all foods, everybody who has diabetes responds to food differently. So in order to understand the impact of apples on your individual blood sugar, you do have to test your blood sugar. Okay, and the best way to do this is test before you eat the apple and then test your blood sugar 1 to 2 hours after. The rise in blood sugar you see after eating the apple will give you an indication of how your body handles eating apples. And that can also really help you when you just try to determine the best portion size for you as well. Now, if you're looking for more ways to add apples into your diet, I'm gonna link to some of my favorite diabetes-friendly apple recipes on my blog below. The one specifically, the apple crisp sticks, I think you're gonna love those. So I'm gonna put the links below if you wanna check it out and just come up with new fun ways to enjoy apples. Okay, and then let me know. I want to hear from you. Do you eat apples? What's your favorite variety and how does your blood sugar respond? Comment below and let me know. And if you have any questions about apples or any other foods you want to know, is it okay to eat with diabetes? Comment below and let me know. And if you liked today's video, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss new diabetes related tips, tricks, and recipes. Thanks so much for joining me today.